to Tall Tales with me, Bob Klitzkie, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m., only on 93.3 FM. And you, too, can become a tailgater.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The Senate ready to move on guns. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News, with a vote in the morning on a bipartisan gun control bill.
Lawmakers say the $15 billion fully paid-for package invests in school safety and mental health services, enhances background checks for gun buyers aged 18 to 21, sends millions to states with red flag laws, which allows authorities to temporarily remove firearms from those who may be at risk to themselves or others.
Fox's Aisha Hosni, Texas Senator Ted Cruz against the bill because of the gun confiscation provisions.
I think that is not going to prevent violent crime, but it is going to make people more vulnerable and less able to defend their homes and their families.
14 GOP senators have supported the bill over questions about his handling of the response to the school shooting last month. Uvalde, Texas School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo has been placed on administrative leave effective immediately. The head of the Texas Department of Public Safety has blamed Arredondo for a more than hour-long delay in police engaging and killing the shooter. President Biden has asked Congress to place the federal gasoline tax on hold for the next 3 months. He's also used Wednesday's announcement to again pitch for a green energy agenda.
Let's lower the price of electric vehicles so we never have to pay at the pump in the first place.
The president also urging states to pause their taxes on gasoline. The U.S. Supreme Court's calendar indicates the court could release more opinions in the morning or on Friday, the highly anticipated ruling on the Mississippi abortion case still pending. The White House urging calm when that ruling does come down.
Violence and destruction of property have no place in our country under any circumstance, and the president denounces this action. Actions like this are completely unacceptable, regardless of our politics. So we have denounced that, and we will continue to denounce any violence or threats.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. America is listening to Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, the Super American Circus is back on Guam, performing 8 shows per week at the PIC Hotel. Witness thrilling acts like the motorcycle team in the Globe of Danger, the amazing Skywheel, the high-flying motorcycle, acrobats, beautiful aerial ballerinas, jugglers, and more. Get your tickets now, www.superamericancircus.com. Get free tickets for kids at Burger King and Circle K 76, valid for the month of July. Presented by Burger King and Circle K 76.
The Taliban government in Afghanistan pleading for international assistance after a deadly earthquake.
More than 1,000 people are dead and hundreds of others are wounded after a massive earthquake in Afghanistan Wednesday morning. The natural disaster struck early while many people were still asleep. Residents dug through the rubble and the mud with their hands to rescue those trapped. The problem is there isn't enough help. Most international aid organizations pulled out of Afghanistan last summer after the Taliban took over. U.S. President Joe Biden tapped on federal officials to determine how to help the victims of the earthquake. In London, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
6 people are dead in the crash of a helicopter in Logan County, West Virginia on what may have been a sightseeing trip. Federal safety investigators now trying to learn how it happened. California air regulators are likely to hear a barrage of criticism Thursday at the first public discussion on the plan to slash fossil fuel use and reach carbon neutrality by the year 2045. The plan would require a sweeping change in the way the state powers its economy. There's a new top dog at the Westminster Kennel Club's annual dog show.
His formal name is Grand Champion Toot My Own Horn, but everyone just calls him Trumpet. He's a 4-year-old bloodhound, the first ever to go all the way to the top of what's considered to be the Super Bowl of the dog world, the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. With big floppy ears and a nose to match, he may not look like a champ, but bloodhounds are prized by police for their ability to track people. Right after his win, Trumpet's owner-handler Heather Helmer was asked by Fox Sports about his personality.
Well, as you saw him eating your microphone earlier, he has a lot of attitude, and he's a little crazy.
Over 3,000 dogs were at Westminster. Jill Nato, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Half a day. Patsy Gogri from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns the property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has the management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
Half a day, it's Kiko the Carabao. My sister Pika and I are here to share some great news for moms and dads, and kids too. New programs to help working families with child care starts April 5th, and Mom says so many more families now qualify. Visit GuamChildcare.com for more information and to apply today.
Program Penila is brought to Guam's working families by DPHSS, GIDA, Governor Lulion Guerrero, and Lieutenant Governor Justin Ori.
This ad is paid for with federal funds administered by the Department of Public Health and Social Services.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia. Let me start that over again. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not today, not yesterday, not tomorrow. We stick with the Second Amendment here on Tall Tales, a constitutionally oriented conservative talk show that encourages you to call in 671-888-TALK or post on our Facebook page. Let's see what's going on at the Daily News. They're probably gloating over having got a blue star yesterday for the first time in weeks. Here's what the Daily News is saying today. Our view, there shouldn't be a price tag on public safety. Make GPD a budget priority. According to the 2020 report from the U.S. Census Bureau, Guam's total population count numbered just slightly over 153,800. We're losing folks. On Monday, Police Chief Stephen Ignacio told lawmakers at a budget hearing for the police department that there are only 267 uniformed police officers. That's fewer than 300 trained public safety personnel charged with keeping the streets, neighborhoods, schools, businesses, and visitors in the island's 19 villages safe. That equates to roughly 575 citizens for every one police officer. Given the alarming number of prisoners escaping from the Department of Corrections and the alarming nature of crimes involving machetes, riots, and assaults that are being reported daily, to say that number of police officers in Guam is insufficient would be a gross understatement. During the last year's budget hearing, the police chief told lawmakers that the department would like to have at least 475 officers. We're still a long way from that target. Although our island leadership has done what it can to maintain and grow the police force by increasing the pay for public safety personnel, with new vehicles periodically being added to the police force's fleet, more needs to be done. Guam Police Department budget request for the upcoming fiscal year is a total of $48.8 million, $44 million of which will come from the general fund, with about 82% of that going directly to personnel-related expenses. This represents $14 million more than the department's previous budget request. Though some may see this as a significant increase, can we really put a price on public safety? Given that law enforcement personnel were given various pay increases depending on positions and ranks, we believe this increased request is insignificant, given that $50 million in pandemic-related funds may be going towards building a theme park. And Tumum, a little whataboutism there on the part of the Daily News. Guam needs to recruit and retrain as many public safety personnel as possible, especially as we enter a post-pandemic world where families everywhere are struggling to put food on the dinner table. Yeah, well, okay, it's an editorial. It's not a news story. It's actually an editorial. No blue star today, but nice try. Let's see what we got on the calendar for today. Of course, we've got Paul Zerzan versus Systemic Racism, the Public 36-34 Follies, and I'm going to talk a little bit about quarterbacks versus constituents again today. Will Castro versus the GOP, the Republicans. The governor versus Ezra Moylan versus the governor. And then another Moylan versus Levin Camacho, the Attorney General. Scambies versus the Bankruptcy Court. And Dersh and Turley versus Nancy Pelosi. That's the card for today. It's kind of a thin card again. I hope that we can get some discussion going about the governor's speech. Obviously, I was there. And if you watch the video at the tail end of the post video online, you could actually it would be proven that I was there because I appeared in that video.
That's what's known as an interview bomb.
Yeah. And I was doing what I like to think I do best. I was walking. I'm really a good walker, if I do say so myself. Okay, Paul Zerzan versus Systemic Racism. You all know the drill. The rice is orange. People say that it's red. Paul Zerzan came out and said, hey, let's stop calling it red. It's not red, it's orange. And the Daily News came roaring back to cancel Paul Zerzan on that one. And we see this all the time where we have people in positions to create and propagate them, spreading their narratives and taking a very dim view of anyone who would correct the narrative by telling the truth. Next on the card, then, I've got, let's see, the Everybody Knows section here today. I've got another Everybody Knows. Yesterday, I debunked the myth that a microwave can give you cancer and the daddy long-legged spiders are dangerous. Here's number 7, the belief. The moon has a dark side. Sure, the moon is moody and has dealt with substance abuse issues. Wait, that's not what is being talked about.
Wrong.
The moon has a far side, but not a dark side. Okay? 8, belief. You can be killed by a penny that falls from the top of the Empire State Building. Did you know that?
I've heard of that one.
You can damage your eye if you're looking up, watching out for falling pennies and get hit in the eye by one. That's the danger. I think the risk of that actually happening are somewhere, it doesn't even rise to the level of slim and none.
Let's see how many tailgaters know the formula for gravity. I knew it in high school. I've forgotten it by now, but we used to memorize that.
Gravity?
Gravity.
Tell me more, Jose.
Has to do with something per square.
32 feet per second per second.
There you go.
Yeah. The formula for the speed of a falling object. Because the farther it falls, the faster it goes. 32 feet per second per second.
Would that be considered velocity?
Yes.
Speed,
yeah. All right. Let's see.
I got one more everybody knows.
All right.
Everybody knows that taking 19 cents off price per gallon is gas relief.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge.
Everyone's breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, it's huge. Okay, then next I go to Public Law 36-34, and GIAA has found a way to be completely free of any violations. Here's the agenda for the meeting they're going to have on Thursday, June 30. Number one, item 1, call to order and attendance. Item 2, approval of agenda. Item 3, approval of minutes for the May 26th meeting. Item 4, correspondence, none. Item 5, old business, none. Item 6, new business, none. 7, report of executive manager. 8, report of the controller. 9, executive session, none. 10, public comments. 11, adjournment. So they're going to have a meeting, and all they're going to listen to is the executive manager and the controller. I guess they've got things down pat so well that there just isn't that much to say.
Maybe they have dinner plans.
And then we've got the Guam Memorial Hospital with the old business error again. I wonder if this is just a contest of wills. We're not going to let anybody tell us how to do our agendas. We've always had an item in there called old business. By God, we're not going to change either. Good going, guys. Okay, yesterday I talked about Will Castro and the GOP. It's an absolute, everybody does know that Will Castro moved to Saipan and served as the chief of staff for the governor of Saipan for several months, right up until the time of the impeachment trial. Now Will Castro wants to run for senator, not in the Northern Marianas, but on Guam. And yesterday I stated my opinion. He's taken votes away from Republicans who are eligible to be seated, people that have lived on Guam for the last 5 years. So what's he doing? Is he just trying to gum up the works? And then second, of course, he's given the other side, the Democrats, ammunition to shoot at not just him, but Republicans in general. Republicans are so desperate for candidates, they got to go find them in Saipan. Can't we at least get people who live here? And, of course, as is my usual custom, I'll give you a little bit of law. Here's the Organic Act, 48 United States Code, Section 1423F, qualifications of members. No person shall sit in the legislature who is not a citizen of the United States, who has not attained the age of 25, and who has not been domiciled in Guam for at least 5 years immediately preceding the sitting of the legislature in which he seeks to qualify as a member. So he just came back here like 3 weeks or so ago after he kind of cut loose from the governor of the Northern Marianas. So if the election is in November and it is now June 23rd, he's going to have to hurry like hell to get 5 years in between now and then.
I have a question. I don't know if you have the answer to this.
Probably.
Is there a percentage or is it a straight 5 years? Let's say, for instance, you live on Guam for 2/3 of the year and live somewhere else another third of the year.
Well, the word is domiciled. So there's some rules for what is domicile and what is not. You don't have to be physically present for 365 days to be domiciled in a jurisdiction. But you can't live somewhere else. That's the key. All right, next item on the card. The governor. So I have the governor's speech that ran in the Post. I will read through it, making pithy comments as I go. No, folks, I don't have a lisp. Well, I might, maybe I'll use it both ways. I'll make pithy comments, and I'll make pissy comments, too. The name of the show is, after all, Tall Tales, right? Here it goes. Reporting Guam is, quote, fighting its way forward and getting stronger every day. Governor Leon Guerrero unveiled a number of new initiatives to help residents struggling under a rising cost of living during her 2022 State of the Island address. Quote, we all see prices climbing at the gas station and the grocery store. From utilities to health care, child care, and housing, these increasing costs are shrinking family incomes faster than they can be earned. Leon Guerrero said during her speech, which was delivered at the Guam Congress building on Wednesday night, her first announced project addresses incrementally increasing residential commercial power bills, which are scheduled to go up by more than $85 for an average residential customer by the end of this year. We are proposing that every residential ratepayer on Guam receive a monthly credit of $100 to immediately offset the cost of power for each of the next 5 months, the governor announced. The $500 benefit will help alleviate your rising power bills. She called on senators to send her legislation that authorizes this credit, which she committed to signing into law quickly, just as she did with the recently enacted gas holiday. Leon Guerrero touted the new temporary exemption for liquid fuel was followed by an immediate 19-cent decrease for prices at gas stations. I thought that was Joe St. Augustine's bill. Let me look through the text here again. See, there's a mention. There's no mention of Joe St. Augustine here. A third round of direct financial assistance through an initiative dubbed Programan Salapi will grant an additional $500 to local families. Residents who qualified for the previous round won't have to apply again, according to the governor. Quote, you don't have to do anything. You'll automatically get a $500 check in the same manner. Those who did not apply for round 2 can still get this $500 by applying for Programan Salapi 3. Leon Guerrero publicly supported other policies, including offering free trash collection to every household struggling under the weight of the pandemic. The investment, which according to the governor amounts to $12 million, is good for our people, good for our economy, and good for our environment. She called on lawmakers to develop a paid family leave policy to apply throughout the private sector. That's all we need is one more expense to add to the private sector. COVID taught us that too often families are forced to choose between the health of those they love and the wages they need to live. Leon Guerrero said, that must end with us. Let me be clear. I support paid sick and family leave for everyone who works. Question, Governor, who's going to pay for it? You know, you've got businesses.
She's good at that. Promising lots of money, then going to legislator and saying, find the money.
Yeah, well, going to the private sector and saying, you guys figure out how to pay for it. So you've got a business community that's just barely surviving here, and now you're going to add one more expense. Oh yeah, you have to you should let people off with pay. Who's going to pay for that, Governor? Well, you guys are businessmen. You know how to do that.
Well, thank God that Senator Rigel doesn't take profits off of every business. Then they probably wouldn't be able to pay for these.
That's true, yeah. There should be an exemption for gasoline stations, right? Because they're already going to be limited to their profits, right? Businesses who implement paid family leave should be incentivized with breaks on business licensing and competitive procurement, according to the governor. That's all we need is some more government bid set-offs like the ones we gave to the women to, as Holly Rustick said, level the playing field. Leon Guerrero announced her intention to try a new model of health insurance, which he called the first step toward universal coverage. I know that rising cost of health care keeps many up at night. That's why we must boldly rethink old models and deliver on the work we started early in our administration. Health insurance, not just for the lucky or the few. Here's the part I like. Health insurance, not for just the lucky or the few, but as a human right. A human right. Now, anytime you hear someone talking about human rights, grab your wallet, because who pays for these human rights? You know, we know what rights are from our Bill of Rights. We're all every tailgater's pretty familiar with that. It's a set of negative rights. It tells you stuff the government can't do to you. But when you start talking about human rights, you know, there's a guy named Hofeld who wrote way back in the 1920s, and he set up this framework of judicial correlatives. For every right, there must be a duty. If there's no duty, there's no right, right? If my children have a right to my support, then I have a duty to support them. So if healthcare is a human right, then somebody has a duty to furnish that healthcare to those who are entitled to the right. I guess what'll happen is doctors will say, you know, it's a human right, so I'm not going to charge anybody for the medical work I do for them. And the same with the labs and the X-ray folk. I mean the imaging folks and everybody else in the medical establishment. Oh, sir, you won't need your checkbook here. You don't have to pay because health care is a human right. So I'm not going to charge you a nickel for that.
That's an interesting take. Instead of demanding the private sector do all these programs for them to pay for it, why don't you demand the medical community to reduce the rates?
Exactly.
We're doing it for the gas companies.
Yeah. And doctors, you know, everybody knows doctors are not deep pockets. They don't have a lot of money, do they? Yeah, so anytime you see this word human right, don't believe the person that's trying to make an argument when his argument is based on, it's a human right. A human right would be just a recipe for picking somebody's pocket to pay for something for somebody else because it's a, quote, human right. Okay, so we're going to have health care, universal health care, and then the governor says, the first group to test the governor's new model will be the 13,000 employees, retirees, and family members covered under the government of Guam's health insurance plan. Of course, if it's a human right, we give it to the humans first. That would be the Guam employees. And then after we've taken care of the human right, these subhumans that stumble around the island that don't work for the government of Guam. Caught you there, Governor. Health care is a human right, but only if you work for the government. By covering the cost of care ourselves and administering it privately with our existing insurers, we believe we can cut costs, cancel health care bureaucracies, and cover more people. Now, what this looks like is this, that there would be no Calvos, there would be no Moylans, there'd be no Aetna, there'd be no Take Care. What there would be the government office of health care, where you go and stand in line for several hours and deal with some really snotty people. And that office then deals with insurance carriers, you know, the people that Select Care deals with. So there would be no local agencies. I think that's what she's saying. Let me go through this again. By covering the cost of care ourselves and administering it privately with our existing insurance, I think, is it Calvos? Is it Tokyo Fire and Marine? I can't yeah.
It's Japanese.
Yeah. And then you got Nanbo's and some of these. So, in other words, instead of going down to Calvos, if you have a problem with your health insurance, you're calling them up, you'd be dealing with the government bureaucracy. Not a very exciting thought.
Well, that's what we were missing with the Obamacare. We didn't have a health exchange here like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason why we couldn't afford it.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to plug Calvo's Insurance here. I've been with them for a long, long time. And they're not the cheapest game in town anymore. Take Care is cheaper than Calvo. But I went with Calvo's anyhow because I really appreciate the service. If you call them on the phone, people answer the phone. They return calls. They answer your questions. If they made a mistake, they'll fix it right away. Yeah. I just can't imagine. Well, we tried this once before, Jose, way, way back. What was it called? GMHP, Guam Memorial Health Plan. We ran the thing ourselves.
I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, we ran it ourselves, and I'll tell you how we ran it. We ran it right into the ground. That was back in about the 14th, 15th legislature back there somewhere. Seems to me it may have been Dr. Ernesto Espaldon's idea. Fine idea. It just didn't work at all. But we'll try it again. Leon Guerrero has been tasked with managing the island and its economy through a years-long public health emergency and globally disrupted tourism economy. Josh and I know that although programs can help, most people want the dignity of a decent job, she said. Well, the pain of Wuhan virus is still felt by too many. Guam's economy is finally rebounding. Small business is stirring again, the governor said, and a tidal wave of federal and local money are poised to restore prosperity for everyone willing to work for it. An island job fair with more than 500 jobs available has been scheduled for July 1, she touted, to help encourage residents looking for new opportunities or to engage with employment assistance programs. Let's take a short break here, Jose, and we'll come back and finish up the governor's speech.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
We're already Pika's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better. Announcing The Point on Alexa. In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Okay, picking back up with a report of the governor's speech. In the midst of increasing direct flights to and from Guam, Leon Guerrero said the island's visitor industry may be opened up to more customers coming by sea. Thanks to our $15 million American Rescue Plan investment in the construction of Hotel Wharf at the port, our island will finally see the birth of Guam's cruise ship industry. I think I've already seen the birth of our cruise ship industry. Yeah, we've had cruise ships coming in here since about 1965. We used to have P&O Orient ships come in here, and we used to get one cruise ship a year, and when we did, what we would do was close the schools because we needed the school buses to haul the tourists around. I remember the bus, the actual transit bus that had the number one license, B1, when there were no buses on this island except for school buses. Those were the days. But we've had cruise ships coming in here, not a large number of them, but coming in here. I remember back, I think it's when I was a senator, one of my law school buddies, Richard Stoll, and his friends and his wife were taking a World War II cruise. It started in Australia. It came up to Truk, Palau, Guam, around Iwo Jima, Saipan, etc., and they stopped here and they spent a day here. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore?
I don't know.
Maybe those interested have already passed on.
Could be, yeah. Anyhow, it would be nice if we did because, you get huge infusions of cash when those cruise ships stop because everybody on the cruise ship wants to go in and buy some gigas, a cold beer, this, that, or the other thing.
Well, if anybody's been around Tamunin and Tumon, they'll see what a cruise ship coming in is kind of like with, I think, the Reagan, USS.
The Reagan's here, yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there.
They're everywhere, yeah. Yeah, there used to be a saying about drunken sailors, and people used to say that Gov Guam spends money like a drunken sailor. I never used that figure of speech. I got too much respect for sailors to damn them with that kind of a rap. This multi-million-dollar economic investment will also be good in the short term. We made this investment on the condition that the port will not increase tariffs for the next 2 years, helping to avoid an increase in the price of goods we ship here. The governor acknowledged the different points of view in the halls of the legislature, but said despite any contrary beliefs, Guam's people are still bound together by faith and love. I know we live in a time of sound bites and cynicism, and that too often the scope of our challenges is outmatched by the anger in our politics. Leon Guerrero said, but I also understand the Democrat and Republican are somewhere in between. We all care about the same things. A paycheck that keeps up with the cost of living, safer streets, schools that teach our children well, businesses that thrive, good health care, and a government that works for all Guam. I'm going to read this again. I like this. This is the kind of, I wrote up a piece for the Daily News about what they wanted to know what I wanted to hear, and I just listed all the things I didn't want to hear. And I didn't hear any identity politics, surprisingly. But here's what she said. I know we live in a time of sound bites and cynicism, and that too often the scope of our challenges is outmatched by the anger in our politics. I also understand the Democrat, Republican, or somewhere in between. We all care about the same things. A paycheck that keeps up with the cost of living, safer streets, schools that teach our children well, businesses that thrive, good health care, and a government that works for all Guam. I can sign up for that. Yeah, if that's the message, I would try to curb my cynicism. Well, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to go that far.
I'll stop you.
So I'm going to ask Jose for his impressions, but first of all, I want to share mine, and that is that when if you really want to know what the speech was about, grab a copy and read it. It's the whole speech is on PNC News online and Pacific Island Times online. So pick up a copy and read. Pick up a copy or go to Pacific Island Times. Read the whole thing if you really understand. I'm a reader learner. I learn much faster and much better by reading something than I do from hearing it, especially in the atmosphere of the legislature last night. So I wanted to go just to kind of get a feeling of what it was all about and do a little bit of sensory impressions of the speech. And I'll say something good about Governor Leanne Guerrero. Her delivery was superb. She did a very nice job of delivering that speech. I didn't hear an or an or a or any of the pitfalls that keep a speech from being graded A. Her posture was good. She had a teleprompter, of course, but she didn't stare at the teleprompter. She made eye contact with people in the audience. I think she even made eye contact with me once or twice. And she didn't even miss her place.
Good thing the first gentleman didn't go.
Yeah. So on that respect, very well done. So now on the other side of it, I'm a Republican, and chances are I'm not going to vote for the Democrat nominee for governor. So if you go to a political speech and there's a lot of hemming and hawing and erring and umming and and it's like I said, and it's from the other party, hey man, that's what I wanted to hear. This guy's not persuasive at all. He doesn't know how to speak in public. He needs to get a job behind the scenes. When it's someone from the other party who delivers a really good political speech, and that's exactly what I saw last night. A political speech delivered by someone who looked like a pro at delivering political speeches. Attention, Republicans, you guys got to be on your game. Don't think that all you have to do is just to get in front of a microphone and wing it. You need to rehearse. You need a coach. You need somebody to check ride you and go through it a half dozen times to make sure you got it right. I don't know who coached the governor last night, but whoever did, governor, that person doesn't deserve a raise. That person did a really good job. Now, my overall impressions of last night, the governor did a nice job. The folks at the legislature, the Tentagos, did a very professional job of ushering folks in, seating us, etc. That was well done. Crowd behavior. Guys, we got to work on this. That is not the kind of place where you whistle and catcall. Leave your cowbells at home. We had company last night. It wasn't a just us production. We had an admiral in the audience. We had a Marine Corps lieutenant colonel. We had a Coast Guard captain there. So we had company, and we were not on our best behavior at all. I suspect that if we created an impression on those guys, those military officers, the impression was, well, have they ever been in a crowd before? Did they get misdirected from the Paseo Stadium up here? Did they think they were going to a baseball game? because that's how, and of course it wasn't the whole crowd. Most of the crowd behaved themselves. It only takes a half dozen people to carry on like that, and it makes it look like the whole place just lost its mind. Not smart at all. Now, I know this guy over there is saying, oh, I don't give a damn what them military folks think. I don't, Well, we need to pay attention to stuff like that. You know, when you're on the world stage, you need to wear your good suit. You don't go on the world stage wearing your bahaki. And that's exactly how it sounded last night. The other impression I had was this. I have the program here. We started out with the introduction of the governor and the first gentleman, also known as Jeff Cook. And then we had the presentation of colors by the National Guard. Very, very well, very nicely done. I was really interested to see that 2 of the 4 members of the Color Guard were carrying M1 rifles, a weapon which at one time I was very familiar with.
Single bolt?
No, it's an 8-shot.
Oh.
8 shots in a clip and 8 rounds. It was invented just before World War II, and Eisenhower said between the Jeep and the M1, those are the 2 machines that helped us win the war. So I had an M1 of my own once upon a time. Well, it wasn't mine, it was the government's, but I never had a chrome-plated M1. That was pretty sharp. But they did a nice job. Then we had the Inifresi, which is, I guess, part of the game. We had the invocation by Father Zuni Valencia, then the State of the Island Address, then the benediction again by Zuni Valencia, and then people, there was a procession out of the hall with the guest of honor going first, etc. Very nicely done, very orderly. Now, there's one thing that happened right after the Inifresi that I was amazed. Between shocked and amazed. Bendición. And the title is Para y Probeción y Tautauta. Para y Probeción y Tautauta. In other words, for the good of the people. And it was a group of folks that looked like they just came down from the hills, all dressed up in colorful skirts and other accoutrements, and screaming at the top of their lungs, some kind of a chant, some music, etc. Now, I suppose that people who were there and are listening to me now were saying, what's the matter, Bob? You don't have any cultural sensitivity? Well, I don't think I do. Because, you know, after living here almost 60 years, this was a complete surprise to me. And I suspect that it's something that Frank Ramone drummed up last year or something like that. It's part of our culture. Kind of like the dances that he borrowed from Samoa, Tonga, Tahiti, and Hawaii. But once again, it was so loud and so raucous. If I were at Mark Baldiga's place, the Sandcastle, I might have thought this is okay, or down at one of the beach bars. But for this kind of an occasion, I don't know, and I really don't know, but I don't see that the Para y Probeción y Tautauta has a state function, like presentation of the colors, the traditional prayer, benediction, etc. But I'll tell you, for one person that was there, it did not make a very good impression on me. That, coupled with the cat calls and the whistling, etc., if I go again, well, no, because it probably won't be the same. If I had known, I'd brought some of those little earplugs they give you when you get on an airplane, just to protect my hearing. Now, Jose wasn't there. Jose watched it on TV. Jose is a pretty perceptive guy, so Jose, share your impressions of the state of the territory. Oh, hang on a second, Jose. Let me get I got Repeat on the line. Let's take a short break, and then we'll listen to Repeat before we give you a chance to shoot off make your comments.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Okay, so here we are. Yeah, I gave my impressions of the show last night, and as far as delivery, etc., I thought the governor did an excellent job. Then Sarita Garin chimes in and talks about the governor's makeup. Now, this is not just anybody. This is Sarita Garin, known on the morning show as Pretty Sarita Garin. So I expect Pretty Sarita Garin knows a good makeup job when she sees one, and she said that the one who did it did an excellent job for the governor. So, and I agree. The governor looked pretty spiffy last night. Yeah. Okay, let's give Pete. Pete, you can only say it once because you only got 9 minutes. You can't say it and then repeat it.
All right. You know, my wife agreed when we watched it last night. She said, hey, the governor looks really cute. So anyways, I was listening to what you're saying about the program. And, you know, I went away for school. I grew up here all my life. I went away for school and I came back, and while I was gone, the Inafresi and the Bendishon were invented. And every time I see it, I always get this weird feeling. It doesn't resonate with me. And I know a lot of people who practice that, and even the Inafresi, it just seems so foreign to me. It's not what I grew up with. It's not what my elders knew. My elders wouldn't know anything about that. And anyways, I get how you feel. It's just, to me, that Bendishon is sort of like keeping up with the Joneses. You know, all the other Pacific cultures and islands, like the Maori, they have that welcome. And I think that's Guam's answer to that. So, anyways, I, too, you know, felt like it was out of place. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but I just always speak the truth. I just always speak my mind. That's not something I grew up with. That's not something I'm familiar with. It doesn't resonate with me.
How Diablo tomorrow? How?
I know, but you know, I'm old school. I'm not new school, I guess. And then the other thing, like I mentioned to you this morning, Uncle Bob, it struck me as kind of funny, and I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but the governor acknowledged all the elected leaders but didn't mention the AG. And I wonder if it's because it's as if we don't have an AG right now.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, I saw Doug filed his papers today. Congratulations to him, and you know, let's see what happens. I still have not made my final decision, but I'm still potentially in the game.
You're still sitting there holding your cards very close to your chest, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
all right. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there and you know, let you know that you're not alone in feeling that the Inofresi and the Bendición are out of place. I get the intention, and I like the way the groups are trying to create something, but it never has. I guess it never took with me. I just, every time I see it or hear it, it still seems very foreign to me.
Well, going back to the time, I've been here almost 60 years, repeat, and when I arrived here, if you had tried to get young kids to dress up like that and to put on shows like that, they'd have thrown you with rocks, as we say, and wouldn't have wanted any part of it. And now, since Frank Rabone invented all this stuff, we try to create the myth that this is historical and authentic, that Chamorros have been doing this for time immemorial. One time, we had some guests come to the island, and we went somewhere where we had the cultural dancers and everything, and these people thought, oh, wow, this is really something. Gosh, we're so lucky to see this. I guess they've probably been doing this since before even the Spanish came here, right? And I just didn't have the heart to tell them, no, they've been doing it all month. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah, and I remember in the 90s when it started to get developed, like I said, I was gone for school, but the Polynesian community came out very critical of it and saying, what's going on? Why are you guys misappropriating our stuff?
Cultural appropriation is a third-degree felony in most islands, Pete.
Yeah. But anyways, I know, like I said, people who hear this are gonna give me flack about it, but that's how I feel, and I don't sugarcoat.
Okay. Well, Paraguayo no maligi fenotmo si dos masi la gatson.
Okay. How good luck with Uncle Bob si dos masi.
Okay, so Jose, you can start a little bit here, and we'll pick you up after the halftime show.
I don't have too much to say as far as what Peter Santo was saying.
You want to get in on that? Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't born here or raised here on Guam, and I know a little bit about the history of just what I've read of the Inofresi and even that song or Osaina song that was played last night. When I first heard that song, I was in a different context of a venue, and it really struck because I thought it was a cool song and everything like that. But the way that it was presented last night, we talked about it a little bit earlier, that it's just not state worthy in the sense that it's out of context and out of place. And that's not to say that it doesn't have a place somewhere, like you said. The second thing is just to clarify, I don't think Frank Rabone wrote that. I can't remember her name. She's an artist here on Guam. She has an album out that sounds a little like bossa nova music. I want to say her name starts with an M. I have a really horrible memory when it comes to things like this. But
Astrid Gilberto? No.
Close. So anyways, for me, I like watching these things nowadays because of social media, and we can get right down into the mosh pits and just have these exchanges between the two sides. I just thought it was very entertaining to watch the comments. I was viewing it on Canada. I was viewing it on the other news media, on Facebook. But for the most part, I can't wait for the fact checkers. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe we should be doing that because this speech has a lot of fodder.
Really? Mm-hmm. Time for the halftime show, Jose?
Almost time. Let me mosh a little bit more about what happened last night. Very funny, interesting observation. There was a lot of Luleon Guerrero supporters on Candid News live stream. But what I thought was funny was the ones that started noticing all the criticism and opining out loud, hey, I'm going to ignore these criticisms. And I thought to myself, that's good, but why'd you have to announce it? Just ignore it all. Yeah. But it's really fun to watch because I think that would be the next generation of State of the Island or State of the Territory addresses. Have live comment going on in the galley because it's so
up on the screen.
It's
up in
much
front.
More entertaining just to see what's going on. Yeah.
All right. Big halftime show. We'll be back in about 7 minutes.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Callahan, Fox News, that could save drivers 18 cents a gallon temporarily proposed yesterday by the president.
President Biden wants Congress to suspend the federal gas tax for 90 days to bring down prices at the pump, but evidently didn't nail down lawmakers' support before making the public plea. And Congress is lukewarm. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi writing, "We'll see where the consensus lies on a path forward." Democrat Senator Joe Manchin indicated the votes may not be there at all. Even if Congress gets on board, there's nothing to keep oil companies from keeping the extra cash.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich. The Senate is poised to vote in the morning to begin debate on the bipartisan gun bill.
The American people know that we don't have to choose between safer schools and our constitutional rights. Our country can and should have both.
Senate Minority Leader McConnell, one of 14 GOP senators supporting that bill, which does not, he says, does not infringe on the Second Amendment. But Utah Senator Mike Lee and Texas Senator Ted Cruz both say the gun confiscation provisions could disarm law-abiding citizens with little due process. The school superintendent in Uvalde, Texas, placing the district's police chief, Pete Arredondo, on administrative leave over what he calls a lack of clarity about police response to last month's school shooting that left 19 students and 2 teachers dead. A Google employee says he's been placed on leave for posting an online interview with the company's artificial intelligence system. Blake Lemoyne telling Fox's Tucker Carlson tonight.
It's a person. Any person has the ability to escape the control of other people. That's just the situation we all live in on a daily basis. It is a very intelligent person. Intelligent in pretty much every discipline I could think of to test it in.
Lemoyne says more science needs to be done to discover possible dangers from AI. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
5 inches of rain by tomorrow.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, the Super American Circus is back on Guam, performing 8 shows per week at the PIC Hotel. Witness thrilling acts like the motorcycle team and the Globe of Danger, the amazing Skywheel, the high-flying motorcycle, acrobats, beautiful aerial ballerinas, jugglers, and more. Get your tickets now, www.superamericancircus.com. Get free tickets for kids at Burger King and Circle K 76, valid for the month of July. Presented by Burger King and Circle K 76.
Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
A federal appeals court has upheld an Arkansas Arkansas law requiring state contractors to pledge not to boycott Israel. The full Eighth Circuit Federal Appeals Court reversing a decision last year that found the requirement to be unconstitutional. The Arkansas Times had sued to block the law, which requires contractors with the state to reduce their fees by 20% if they don't sign the pledge. The identities of some of the victims from a 100-year-old mass killing could soon be known through DNA tests.
More than a dozen victims of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre have never been identified, but that could change thanks to DNA testing. Forensics investigators say they found enough usable DNA for testing on 2 of 14 sets of remains removed from a cemetery last year. They say the key will be whether any relatives of the victims are in DNA databases. None of the remains are confirmed as victims of the massacre, in which more than 1,000 homes in a predominantly black neighborhood were burned and hundreds others looted. Historians say up to 300 people may have died. Rich Dennison, Fox News.
Survivors are digging by hand through villages in eastern Afghanistan that were reduced to rubble by a powerful earthquake on Tuesday that's killed at least 1,000 people. The Taliban and the international community that fled their takeover now struggling to aid the disaster's victims. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show. Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Peeking at the Facebook comments here, Dave Duenas says it was more like a political rally. All that was missing was the chant, 4 more years. Well, actually, we got to that too at the very end. 4 more years, 4 more years.
What is this, British Parliament?
Yeah, right. Okay, so first half of the show here, we pretty much autopsied the governor's speech. I think Jose and I agree that she did a great job of delivery. That Jose, I, and pretty Sarita Guerin thinks she looked pretty spiffy as she was doing it. So good marks on that. I have some questions about the substance of her speech, as does Jose, who's pretty good at picking these things apart. Well, let me put it this way, autopsying them. So tell us what you thought, Jose.
Yeah, the obstinacy is still in session, but yeah, the couple of points you pretty much hit on everything that I thought of also as I was watching last night. I tuned in and out every now and then also because I had other things to do. I was on the road watching some of it, but what I had in mind at first was, or I thought at first was how frustrated I was at this speech for 2 points. Number one, she did a really bang up job. She did an awesome job of speaking, and that was frustrating because it was hard to criticize that, and it's easy to criticize bad speakers, but it's hard to criticize good speakers because they could probably walk their way out of your criticism as well. And she's very good at doing that also. She's had many years of public speaking, many years of testifying in front of the legislature, and probably as a CEO, she's had many times talking to her employees, and she knows how to handle a crowd, that's for sure. But as far as the other frustration I had, there are so many things that she was saying that were blatantly mistruths. We've seen through the past 4 years, especially during the Trump administration, of the amount of fact-checking that came out with anything that he said. And I'm very surprised that we don't have fact checkers here on Guam because they're very easy to do. And some of the items that she laid out just didn't hold muster to even some of the reporting that's been done in the paper. One thing that Senator Moylan has pointed out is the fact that these raises that are happening weren't because of her. It was because they were instituted through law or through other studies even before she came into office. I'm glad that she gave credit to President Trump and Biden when she said she worked with both administrations, and that was kind of a very good kind of coming together without having to talk bad about the former administration like other politicians do, other partisan politicians do. And the biggest thing also is all these promises and announcements of programs that were announced yesterday. Because what's happening to this island and the struggles people are having on this island did not begin yesterday or last week or last month. And to delay announcing them until last night is pretty dirty. It's kind of gross. And it sounds good because how can you get mad at somebody telling you they're giving you free money? But when you think about it after a while, you're like, why are you waiting until your speech? Why halfway through the year when an election's coming up in just 4 or 5 months from now? And that's the thing I think people should keep in mind. Why did she wait on all of this? When Senator Blas asked her to put out some things or asked her for some relief, and she said, no, we've done what we could do already. You find a way to do it through local funds. And then him hearing from Lieutenant Governor Tenorio that things are in the works, I think maybe Lieutenant Governor Tenorio is sick because he wasn't supposed to telegraph what they're going to be doing. So he wasn't at the speech, right? And that's just my conspiracy-minded explanation of why he's not there. I know they've announced that he's sick and has COVID, but I just think it's interesting that it was telegraphed what she was going to do tonight. Ray Gibson had predicted it. I kind of predicted it, also made light of the fact that we're going to hear Senator Blas's proposals in Lou Leon Guerrero's speech, and sure enough, it happened. Mm-hmm. Just not in the same way that he put it, but the same exact kind of context of what he was asking and requesting. So those are the things to take away. Absolutely, this was a political ad. There is no way around it, especially when you can see the quote-unquote operatives out there hooping and hollering in the comments section when they normally aren't online during some of these other events that happen, like on Candid or even on the live feeds for the other news media sites. But again, it was a great presentation. It was packaged well. But when you open up the package, what are we going to find? And it might not be as pretty as we think it was last night.
And there might be some of somebody else's stuff in the package too. Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're anxious to hear what the folks out there in our international radio listening audience think about the speech, and so give us a buzz, and we'll be more than glad to Pick it up.
671-888-8255. Don't forget the 671.
Okay, next on the card here, I've got Moylan versus the governor. And Senator Jim Moylan, man, he was fast. The media wasn't so quick. I suspect that you'll get a better reflection from the media tomorrow than today. Because, well, you know, the speech didn't end until 8 o'clock last night. And
I think someone snuck him the transcripts before the speech because he put out his press release like immediately afterwards.
Yeah, and it's detailed. It's well done. It's a nice job. So here's what Jim Moylan said. Well, applauding Governor Lujan Guerrero's announcement to extend her administration's stimulus grants under the program in Salapi, Senator James Moylan said the chief executive's financial plans remain vague. Quote, I was hoping to hear more details on actual plans and funding sources versus what seemed like a speech more aligned for a political pocket meeting, Moylan said in a statement following the governor's State of the Island address on Wednesday. What we did not hear tonight were actual plans with what this administration intends to do with federal relief funds, including implementing Public Law 36-53, also known as the RISE Act, and providing qualified residents with $1,000 to assist with rising inflation costs. The congressional delegate said Lujan Guerrero failed to recognize that her federally funded programs alienated thousands of working-class families who have not qualified for relief, inclusive of the program in Salapi. In her State of the Island address, the governor defended her refusal to tap the COVID-19 relief grants for inflation-related relief programs proposed by some senators, saying the federal funds were earmarked only for coronavirus-related responses. To assist Guam residents with their living expenses, the governor proposed a $100 credit on power ratepayers' monthly bills. The governor spoke about utilizing an artificial surplus to assist families with power bills, yet these are the same funds her finance team urged lawmakers not to touch recently, as they may not actually exist. We're back to Schrodinger's appropriations. The cash is actually there and not there at the same time, depending
as long as you don't touch it.
Yeah. Once again, we need plans and not political rhetoric, Moylan said. The Republican senator also said he was surprised that the governor brought up a public safety plan submitted by her administration at the end of 2019, adding, that was then, this is now. The proposal was never entertained, Moylan said. The governor proposed to end parole for those who commit crimes involving sex and violence, stop plea agreements until every judge has heard from the victims of crimes of their families, limit the late-night off-premise, here we go again, off-premise sale of alcohol, and hold parents accountable for the crimes of their children. And here we are years later, and it is being resurrected. If the issue is vital, then it should have been prioritized over the years instead of being buried as it has been. Instead, what was the highlight for public safety was a notation in the increase of the recruitment of law enforcement officers, Moylan said. While I understand that this is an election year, such a speech was expected. However, our community is struggling. The inflation crisis is growing. Criminal activity is rising daily, he added. And I just saw a post here that, things are bad when the thieves are going down south. Malesu in Alaha.
Right, that store that got robbed?
Yeah,
last night.
Papa Nidzuk store was robbed. Drive all the way down there to rob a store.
Maybe they needed gas money to come back up.
Probably. All right, so that's Jim Moylan's. Jim Moylan did a pretty nice job there. I guess when he's finished up with all of his letters, I wonder if Jim ever writes to the Corinthians. That's just about the only people he hasn't written to, I think. Okay, next we have another Moylan. Yeah, this is another Moylan versus Levin Camacho. Toughest AG on crime. This is from Doug Moylan. I don't want your money and I will not be taking any donations. I just ask for your vote. We need change in the AG's office to restore law and order. Like it or not, we all want and need the toughest AG to protect and to fight for all of us. We need an AG not afraid to prosecute, convince juries to convict, and ask the courts to severely punish criminals, including corrupt politicians. I guess we could say Doug's not beating around the bush here, huh? The AG has failed to 1, stop our out-of-control violence, theft, and drug problems. 2, protect residents and businesses during the pandemic by allowing the governor to trample over our civil rights and ability to run our businesses, even ordering our National Guard troops to stop us while driving. I'll never forget that. 3, according to Guam's public auditor, keep government officials from enriching the government's family by awarding a contract to a hotel holding a mortgage with the Bank of Guam. If I'm elected, I will set up a sub-office on the 19th floor to monitor these illegal activities. Yeah, man, that's the one that really gets me. The public auditor comes out and says, here it is. And it's plain as day. And what does he do? He sues 4 contracts for a declaratory judgment. That's enough. I mean, he could have been Jack McCoy for all the rest of his term. And just that one, that's enough. No more. Out. The AG has even failed just recently to quickly act to protect an 83-year-old Filipina, Madamco, pleading for his help to protect her from physical abuse by her caregiver. Man, if he can't protect 83-year-olds, I don't want any part of Doug Moylan. He's not looking out for me. I'm sorry, Levin Camacho. For the Madamco, justice delayed is justice denied. Yeah, we can't wait around forever, guys. Tough on crime, corruption prosecutions, and standing up to controversial issues are non-existent with this AG. I have an undisputed record of being a tough AG that fought for everyone. There's no strings attached to me. If elected, my 30 years of experience, toughness, and commitment to enforcing all laws for everyone returns to the AG's office, criminal, civil, child support, and consumer protection divisions. We shall also restore strength to the AG's office so attorneys, employees, and the public will again respect our chief legal officer. We don't right now, that's for darn sure. We will also provide legal services to all government officials that result in a direct benefit to the taxpayer, consumer, and residents to increase money in your pockets, not ours. Fighting to put and keep criminals in jail, reduce gas prices, improve your quality of life, ensure corrupt officials get their just punishment, and to protect everyone's civil rights are just a few of the things that will be different. When you elect an AG, you want the toughest fighter with experience as an AG, not an AG trying to appease everyone, including criminals. When you hire a lawyer, you don't pay for a nice guy. That's not what you hire. You pay for the toughest, smartest, and most experienced attorney to fight for you. I have just one entreaty for you right now. Better call Saul. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not from Doug. I just made that one up.
That would have been great.
Don't vote for an AG who wants to get reelected. Vote for an AG who will fight till his last day in office like I did. Criminals should be afraid at night, not you. That will return under A.G. Moylan administration. Well, I'm so glad that Doug has thrown his hat in the ring. For the entire history of the island up until 2002, the Attorney General was appointed by the governor and confirmed by the legislature. We had some attorneys general who were fairly skilled lawyers who did pretty good jobs, but it didn't matter who the Attorney General and the governor were. Sooner or later, the smart guys, like the guy over there in the Lazy Boy, would say, yeah, that Attorney General doesn't fool me. The governor plays him like a cheap violin. Whatever the governor wants, the Attorney General produces. You need an opinion? How should it read? I'll get to work on that right away, Governor. So we're always looking for an Attorney General who would, if necessary, have to go against the governor. And that was the reason that we decided to elect our governors. So that if the governor was committing misconduct, the Attorney General wouldn't be in his pocket. We could depend on the Attorney General to bring him to justice. I've mentioned before how badly Elizabeth Barrett Anderson fouled that up. A classic case of why we thought we needed an elected Attorney General. We have a statute that says it's illegal to give retroactive pay increases. Governor Calvo gave retroactive pay increases to all of his key people. This became known. The clamor was for the Attorney General to not only get the money back, but to prosecute. Well, the Attorney General came along and said, well, yeah, you got to pay the money back, Governor. But I'm sorry, I can't prosecute because when this came up, I rendered an opinion for you. So it would be a conflict of interest for me now. When everybody and his brother was saying, why were you rendering an opinion? Why weren't you, instead of authoring an opinion, why didn't you author an indictment and take it to a grand jury? So she said that. She said, we're going to have to hire a special prosecutor. We're going to start doing that right now. So she put out the papers for the bid. Sandra Miller, the governor's legal advisor, applied. And of course, got all the papers, right? You fluffed it pretty.
The degree of separation is much less with the governor's legal counsel, and I don't understand. But Barrett Anderson still recused herself.
Well, Barrett Anderson recused herself because of the opinion. Then she put out this request for, I don't know if it was request for proposal or bid or whatever. And Sandra Miller said, I want to see some of those. Maybe I will. So she could get the whole package, right?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Outsmarted her. And then the next thing that happened, the governor said, well, we've got to get a special prosecutor. So she appointed Phil Tydenko to hire a special prosecutor. And the procurement was flubbed up. There was a flub here and a flub there until finally Elizabeth Barrett Anderson was able to fumble her way out of it. There was never a prosecution.
Were the retro, do they go back? Do they repay the...
Well, the first approach was this. Well, if someone got a $10,000 retroactive pay, we'll cut that person another $10,000 check, and then he can endorse the check over to the governor and pay it back, and then it's a wash. This was said with a straight face. Yeah. So I don't know if all of the money was ever recovered or not. Anyhow, that was kind of, we needed an elected attorney general. So Doug Moylan ran. Let's see, who else ran? I probably can't remember who else ran for attorney general. And Doug was very aggressive when he took over. There's just no question about it. Very aggressive. A style, perhaps, that turned people off. He had a fairly new Mercedes, and on the left front bumper of his Mercedes, he had a standard. If you've ever seen a general drive around in his staff car, you'll see a mast. You would call it a flag, but it's not a flag, it's a standard. Doug had a standard on the front of his car that said Attorney General. He was up on the 7th floor of the at the time, the what's the name of that? Pedro's Plaza, with a few M16s or M16s. That's the story went, right? At the time Doug was elected, the Attorney General shared space with the courts in the courthouse. Half of the 2nd floor was Attorney General space. But Doug and the Chief Justice got into a skirt-tearing contest, and Doug had to move out, which was probably a good thing. But he was very aggressive, and he did a lot of good. So my analysis is this. Compared to what we've seen since then, we went from a guy who would prosecute anybody for doing anything to people who wouldn't prosecute some people for doing some things, till we finally got to the point where we got to people elected to office who wouldn't prosecute anybody for anything. So my analysis is this. When it comes to attorneys general, it's much better to, from time to time, have to tame a tiger than to constantly prod a pussycat into action. And since Doug was a tiger, and since then we've had nothing but pussycats. Now, if you see someone calling in here to comment, and you pick up and you answer the phone, you hear someone meowing on the other end, it's probably leaving Camacho. Yeah. So another way to look at it, in addition to the pussycat tiger analogy, is this. Did you ever try to steer a parked car, Jose?
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's where we are, trying to steer a parked car. Well, let's head for Wrigley Field for the 7th inning stretch.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
We're already Pika's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better. Announcing The Point on Alexa. In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
Here we are, Wrigley Field in Chicago, the world's most beautiful ballpark. That means I only got 2 more innings until the end of today's Tall Tales. I've got a nicely worded political speech here on Facebook that I'd just like to read into the record. I'm having to start my comments like this. Well, to be perfectly honest, in my humble opinion, of course, without offending anyone who thinks differently from my point of view, but also by looking into this matter in a different perspective and without condemning of anyone's view, and by trying to make it objective, and by considering each and everyone's valid opinion, I honestly believe that I completely forgot what I was going to say. Now, the guy who wrote that is kind of proud of himself. And Anesi Benedoso Tautau. You got a lot to be proud of there, Benedoso Tautau. Yeah, so let's see. The next item on the card is 2 families want church to return their lands, but I see somebody trying to get in here to chat with our international radio listening audience. It's our Keith. Howdy, our Keith.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
I was just, thinking as I listened to your description of our current Attorney General, if he would actually not indict a ham sandwich.
Yeah, he brought suit against the ham sandwich. He tried to indict it. It didn't work. He brought civil suit, and the ham sandwich filed a counterclaim and won.
Exactly. No, I mean, I'll listen, I'm not a native of Guam. I don't know the back politics, but I can tell you what, as a sort of a newbie, observe, and that is that this guy's utterly useless. It doesn't help matters, or I'm not sure that's the phrase. The fact that he's what, the in-law or nephew of the governor?
I don't think so.
No, I thought there was some relationship there. Okay. I stand corrected. But anyway, I
think what our Keith you're referring to is he's been it's been said that he's really good friends with the son-in-law of the governor.
There you go.
That's it.
I forgot his name.
I knew there was something there. I just couldn't put my finger on it.
He's as we say on Guam, he's gangs as a consigliere.
Mm-hmm. Now, consigliere, there is an expression coming from the East Coast that I'm familiar with.
Well, the governor's son-in-law was her Tom. What was the guy's name in the movie? Tom Holden.
Holden.
Yeah, he was the governor's Tom Holden. He was her lawyer at the bank when she was elected the governor. She moved over to the governor's office, so he was with her in the family business. And when she became governor, he was still the consigliere, and he's the one that cut the deal for the 19th floor at the Pacific Star, killing a couple of birds with one stone, since the Pacific Star had a $38 million mortgage outstanding with the Bank of Guam, which was in default.
And some people made some hay about the fact that he wasn't licensed as an attorney on the island,
right?
Just as a consultant. Is that the word?
He is not a member of the Guam Bar. Now, we have a special provision here that people who work for the government of Guam have a 5-year grace period before they have to be licensed. You get licensed in 5 years or pack up and move on. When he was at the Bank of Guam, you can hire a lawyer and you could use him. It's just that he can't act as a lawyer. He can't hold himself out as a lawyer. Obviously can't go to court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when he went from the bank to the government of Guam as the governor's legal advisor, then he was eligible for one of those Guam limited tickets. But there was like a 4-day gap. He started work 4 days before he actually got that limited ticket. But
I have to chuckle. Your reference to the Government of Guam Limited ticket, my mind immediately flew to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Who gets the golden ticket and gets to enter into the chocolate world to win the prizes?
I never got much farther than the brass ring on the merry-go-round. Arcade.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys have a nice evening.
Okay, it's always a pleasure talking to you, Keith.
Ditto.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next item on the card is Scambies versus the bankruptcy court. And this is a story that ran in the Post. 2 families want church to return donated land. At least 2 different families asked the federal bankruptcy court for the return of parcels of land that their parents and grandparents donated decades ago to the Catholic Church, which now plans to use them to settle Guam clergy sex abuse claims. The Pangilinan and Scamboluri families. I almost feel like I ought to stand up when I say the word Scamboluri. my really good friend, the late Adolph Scamboluri, also known as Duffy. And then, of course, a guy who has been the producer for this show. You probably remember him. His name is
Real Joe.
The Real Joe Cruz, who's famous for... Yeah, he's not laughing now. Yeah, the Real Joe Cruz. Objecting to a joint plan by the Archdiocese and its creditors to get the Archdiocese out of bankruptcy, which includes a proposed payment of $37 million to $107 million to 270 survivors of clergy sexual assaults. Under the plan, dozens of properties, including those donated by families, will be sold or transferred to a trust for abuse survivors. Both families attached copies of the deed of gift for the donated properties. 5 children and relatives of the late Salvatore Giovanni Scamboluri and Anna T. Scamboluri. This was a pair. They ran a store in Barragata on the corner, just about on the corner of Route 8 and Route 10. There's a gas station on the corner, and then there's a building towards Agania. They had a store in there called An Giovanni. And I used to go in there just to spend a little time around Giovanni, because in accordance with his heritage, he was an opera singer. And you'd go in there.
Nice.
Yeah, and he'd come forward with an aria. It was, talk about local color. It was just great. What a great guy he was. And I think probably completely in character for him to give a piece of real property to the church. It does not surprise me at all. Okay, 5 children and relatives of the late Salvatore Giovanni Scamboluri and Anna T. Scamboluri said the couple donated a Barragata property in 1975 to be used exclusively for old age home for clergy and for a Catholic church. If the Catholic Church is not going to use these properties for these purposes, we, heirs to Salvatore and Anna, respectfully request that the land be returned to our family, Mona Scamboluri, rich, a famous person in her own right, before she moved to Texas, said in a letter to the bankruptcy court. 4 other heirs of their representatives on Guam wrote similar letters. Children of the late Engracia Cruz Diaz Pangilinan and Francisco Sablan Pangilinan filed a motion to intervene and object to the Archdiocese and creditors' claim, joint Chapter 11 bankruptcy organization. Sisters Zita Pangilinan and Victoria Pangilinan are specifically objecting to the planned sale of 2 parcels of Haggett land that their parents donated in 1997 to the Archbishop of Agana for the benefit of the parish of the village of Santa Rita. They also attached a copy of a June 2017 letter that their mother wrote to then coadjutor Archbishop Michael Jude Burns, asking that their donated land be returned to their family. The intent to sell the land for other purposes invalidates said deed and all documentation subsequent to and resulting from its operation. I respectfully request that the properties covered by the deed of gift be returned to my husband's estate and me in order to execute or hold the true conditions of the deed, the Pangolinan matriarch wrote. District Court Chief Judge Francis Tydinko Gatewood. You know why Francis Gatewood is the Chief Judge, Jose?
Because he's the only judge.
That kind of
district court judge.
Kind of narrows it down, doesn't it?
It helps.
She said a July 13 hearing on the disclosure statement and reorganization plan. Well, let me just talk a little bit about what I read in this story here. Now, if someone wants to give real property to someone else or to something else and have control over how the property is used, he would draft a deed upon a condition subsequent, or let's see, there are two different ways you can do it. And the language would say from A to B, so long as A raises horses on the property. That's one way to do it. The other way is from A to B, but if B stops raising horses, then to C. So these things create what are called reversions. Sometimes the reversion comes back to the grantor. Sometimes it goes to a third party. But this language, you got to find the language in the deed somewhere.
Has to be there.
Yeah. Now, if it's just a quitclaim deed or even a deed of gift without that magic language in it, once the deed is delivered, that's it. It's over. If the deed isn't delivered, you still got a little wiggle room. So there is law of bankruptcy. So this is how a bankruptcy works. The debtor declares bankruptcy. In this case, we're talking about a Chapter 11. Chapter 7, a liquidation bankruptcy means you declare bankruptcy, a trustee is appointed, the trustee gathers all of the assets of the bankruptcy, and gives a notice to creditors, figures out who the bankrupt owed money to, and then divides the assets up amongst the creditors in accordance with certain rules. There are secured creditors, unsecured creditors, priority claims, etc. If it's a Chapter 11, instead of doing that, the creditors and the debtor or the trustee in bankruptcy come up with a plan that allows the business to continue to operate. Because pretty much common sense that a business that's operating has more value than the one that shuts down. You shut it down, you lose a lot of value right there. So even if the plan of the bankruptcy is to sell the business, better to keep it going. So in the process of developing this plan, they work out an idea of who's going to pay how much. They figure out who the creditors are. It's a lot of computations, etc. And when the judge approves the bankruptcy plan, then the assets are divided amongst the creditors, and that's pretty much it. But the bankrupt continue to operate during the time that the matter is before the bankruptcy judge. Oftentimes, what is the property of the person declaring bankruptcy is called the bankruptcy estate. And the bankruptcy estate is often under the control of a trustee who can't do anything with the assets in the bankruptcy estate or the claims against it unless a judge approves it. Sometimes, instead of a trustee, the court will allow something called a debtor in possession. So the bankrupt can continue to run the business again, subject to court approval. Now, there's one other really interesting thing here, and that's the voidable preference. So let's say we're talking about A declares bankruptcy, right? And B, there's a creditors committee called B. And 2 months before A declares bankruptcy, I sell him a new car, and he pays me $20,000 for it. The trustee in bankruptcy can get that $20,000 back from me. It's called a voidable preference. Any payment made, well, almost any payment made within 4 months of the declaration of bankruptcy is a voidable preference. Now, if a voidable preference and the term used to get the money back for a voidable preference, the term is clawback. The court will claw back that money.
Sounds violent.
Yeah, so that's what the Scambies are trying to do here. They're trying to claw back real property. Now, so much depends on the wording of that deed. And if it's got the magic words, they might have something going for them.
But is that language only has to be in the deed, or can it be in a correspondence around the same time?
It's got to be in the deed, yeah. When it comes to conveyances, notice is the key. And when you properly record any conveyance in the chain of title, that's notice to the entire world. Even if you don't even know anything at all about it, it's notice to you. All right, let's head for Churchill Downs and see who owns Churchill Downs.
Half a day. Patsy Gogri from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns the property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has the management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Okay, so here we are, Churchill Downs, home stretch for Tall Tales today, 6 furlongs, and I'll be crossing that finish line. I notice a little tete-a-tete here between Ismael Velez and Simon Sanchez. Simon Sanchez has been recognized as a Tall Tales expert when it comes to utility rates. This is what Ismael Velez says. The so-called electric credit is a farce. The agency can charge higher rate and claim they applied the credit based on assumed increase in fuel prices. Well, that doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't sound right to Simon either. Simon says you don't understand the rate setting process. All rates, once approved, remain fixed until they are adjusted by the Public Utilities Commission. GPA can't change that rate arbitrarily. The credit will be applied to the rates approved by the Public Utilities Commission at the time of the credit. Please stop incorrectly, let's see, describing what you obviously don't understand. You're entitled to an opinion, your opinion, but not to your own version of the facts. Okay. So from what I read, I for one understand how the rate setting process works. GPA management, primarily John Benevente, will go to the Public Utilities Commission and say, this is where we are with oil and the levelized, the fuel adjustment factor, whatever. I can't remember the correct name for it. And this is how much we calculate we're going to have to raise the rates. So the Public Utilities Commission will discuss it, perhaps even argue about it, whatever, and either disapprove or approve. If they disapprove, that's the end of it. If they approve, then they will authorize John Benevente to petition the Public Utilities Commission to authorize a rate increase. And there haven't been any rate increases since 2013, except for the fuel adjustment factor. The Public Utilities Commission authorizes the rate increase. It goes up, and it stays there until that same process is engaged in again. No single person, no single entity can set those rates. Now, as I understand it, the governor's talking about a $100 per ratepayer credit. Now, what this sounds like to me, and I can't give you chapter and verse on this. It sounds like there will be an appropriation to the Guam Power Authority, allowing them to apply $100 to the monthly bill of every single ratepayer, and that's how it's going to work. I don't see there's any room whatsoever for any kind of misconduct on the part of the Guam Power Authority, no matter how badly they wanted to do it, which I don't think they do anyhow. So thanks a lot, Simon, for jumping in here and setting the record straight.
Well, not as long as Tall Tales is on the air.
Yeah, not as long as I'm here. Not as when Doug Moylan is the Attorney General. You can bet your bottom dollar that would be a straight ticket. Straight ticket to Leavenworth.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, I've just got a few minutes to go, and I still haven't got to Dersh and Turley versus Nancy. And, of course, it's about the January 6th hearings. And I don't want to start it. I got about, 3 minutes? Yeah. So I ran across this paper here in my stack of papers. I think I'll talk about this again. This is the voting record for Bill 261-36. And once again, senators showed up at the session to vote on a bill in third reading, one that has been discussed. And there are probably people out in the community who have memorized the whole bill.
This is the one sponsored by Speaker Terlahi.
Exactly. It's that one. It's that one. It is not the one sponsored by Joe San Augustine had one too.
Or Governor Lulian Guerrero, whoever you choose to listen to.
Exactly. Yeah. So when the roll was called, 6 senators voted in favor of it. As you were, 5 senators voted in favor of it from the get-go. They had decided before showing up at the session hall whether they liked the bill or didn't like the bill from the get-go. And 3 senators decided they didn't like it. So they voted no from the get-go. Is either one of those votes defensible, Jose?
Mm-hmm.
What about if I really, really disagree with someone who voted nay? What if I'm right in here and the table pounding, stage, full tall tales, let them have it mode? Is it still okay to vote nay?
It absolutely is.
Wow. So either yay or nay is okay.
That's because a decision has been made.
A decision has been made. Is this what we hire these people for?
I do.
Yeah.
That's why I did.
Do we want them to make informed decisions?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what if they've been really busy Been watching a lot of TV lately. Didn't have a whole lot of time to read Bill 261. In fact, completely forgot about it until the clerk of the legislature started reading the roll call. And then they start, oh gosh, I forgot about this bill. Should I vote for it or should I vote against it? Because that's the mental image I have. The clerk of the legislature says, Senator Frank Blas Jr.
My dog ate my homework.
Pass. Yeah, 3 times he passed. And then he finally voted nay. All right, it's time once again to greet our president with the traditional greeting. Let's go, Brandon!
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Senate action on guns today. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Another procedural vote a few hours from now to begin debate on the bipartisan gun control bill. Senate Majority Leader Schumer.
The bill is real progress. It will save lives. And it is my intention to make sure the Senate passes this bill before the end of the week.
In addition to toughening gun background checks for some buyers, the bill would also give states money to enact red flag gun confiscation laws. As many as 14 Republicans support the bill, but Utah Senator Mike Lee is not among them.
I don't care what the reason is. If you're taking away a constitutional right from someone based on a mere accusation where there's not due process and an opportunity in court prior to the deprivation of the constitutional right, that's not due process.
Senator Lee telling Fox's The Ingram Angle there is little in the bill that would prevent states from taking away guns unconstitutionally. The police chief of the Uvalde, Texas school system has been placed on administrative leave by the school's superintendent over the lack of clarity about the police response to last month's school shooting that left 19 students and 2 teachers dead. As expected, President Biden calling on Congress yesterday to pause the federal gas tax for July, August, and September, and urging oil companies to cooperate.
I call on the companies to pass this along, every penny of this 18-cent reduction to the consumers. There's no time now for profiteering.
Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm suggesting the president could use the Defense Production Act to increase gas supply. AAA updating its national gas price average a short time ago, down another 1.5 pennies from yesterday. First at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, the award for Best in Show goes to a bloodhound named Trumpet. His owner sharing...
He has a lot of attitude, and he's a little crazy.
America is listening to Fox News.